Hi everybody. The next step in what we're going to do to analyze data is we're going to go ahead and make a histogram out of our unplanned maintenance action data. All of these variables are continuous, so all of them are good candidates for histogram making. We're going to need to bin them in some way to make our histogram. Technically speaking, you could bin them as the numbers that they are, but that's probably going to lead to something a little messy. So let's go ahead and think about some reasonable bins. So let's call this column here UMA bins. And so looking at our data over here on unplanned maintenance actions, they vary from 36 to 87. So I think it might be reasonable to start with that our first bin would start at 40. Right? I think this is going to be the maximum from each bin. Maybe bins of 5 will work. Excel has a nice trick that once you've kind of created the pattern, you can keep going with the pattern. So we're going to drag that on down. The max is 87, so I'm going to go to 90 here. I might just for fun, just to show you, make UMA bins 2. Let's do them in groups of 10 this time. So let's start at 45, and we'll go 55, and we'll do something like that. Okay. So in order to make our histogram, we're going to go over here to the Data tab, and we're going to pull up Data Analysis, and we're going to make things go away on my computer, and we're going to grab Histogram. Tell it OK. Now, to make my histogram, here my data is in D1 through D37 with labels. My bins are, good guess Excel, going to be in J1 through, it looks like, about J12. And we'll call this new worksheet UMA histograms. We will have it make the chart for us by clicking this chart output box. So remember, important, click labels so that it knows what it's talking about and doesn't try to summarize something about the names that you've put on your sheet. Put it in a new worksheet. That's usually the easiest thing. Give it a meaningful name, or else you'll have all these worksheets that don't mean anything to you. And go ahead and click chart output if you want to see a picture of it. Okay, let's click OK. Let it do its magic. Here's its magic. We get a beautiful histogram. It also gives us this information in table form. So if we wanted to, if we'd forgotten to build our histogram the way that Excel builds it, we can go over here to Insert, and we can make a chart. And we're going to make a 2D column chart, which is going to look an awful lot like a histogram, except that it doesn't, I don't like the data it shows. And so I'm going to go use the Select Data tool. So I'm making this video right now on my Mac, which means that the Select Data tool looks a little bit different than the one that you have seen before. But we're going to want to go ahead and include some other information. So on the horizontal axis, we want the UMA bins. So let's go ahead and highlight those to get them to be our horizontal axis labels. Click OK to start. Then in addition, we want to get rid of UMA bins as one of our variables, keeping frequency. also in that Select Data tool. Now, our two graphs look fairly similar. Some slight differences. We could relabel things, but you get the same idea using the two different tools. So this is a good first step for examining our data and getting a visual representation of kind of where the middle is of our data and what the spread looks like. If you go back and think about ultimately our raw data, it's not terribly surprising. It shouldn't be that the middle and like somewhere in the 60-ish, right, 60 to 65 range, and that represents the mean, median, and mode are all going to be in this 65 bucket, remembering that the buckets are the high value. We can go back here, and I promised you we would make a second histogram. So we're going to go ahead and change our bin range. Use bins 2 and give it a new name. Clicking that labels and chart output, click OK. And we get a somewhat different looking histogram, right, which is more blocky than our first one by changing our bin size. There's no exact right answer here. Obviously, if I made the bins too big, it wouldn't be a terribly interesting histogram. I guess I can do something like that here. Let's make them 20. So something like that. Data analysis. Histogram 3. Not so interesting. Though still you can see that measure of central tendency there. All right, that's it for histogram making. We're going to go ahead and break here, and we'll come back and do some more data